Assalamualaikum student. Today we are going to read something more about critical reading जो हम अपने इस कोर्स में पढ़ रहे हैं और so far हमने last day जो चीज़ें पढ़ी थी उसमें जो हमारा basic topic है reading strategies के हवाले से तो उसमें हमने एक SQ3R के बारे में पढ़ा था which is also an acronym सर्वे क्वेश्चन और फिर 3 और जो हैं वो रीड रिकॉल एंड रिव्यू की बात करते हैं तो व्हेन यू आर और ये एक थोड़ा सा यानी आप कनेक्ट कर लें कि व्हेन यू आर रीडिंग समथिंग राइट तो वो जो आपकी रीडिंग है एक सिंपल रीडिंग है कैजुअल रीडिंग है इन कैजुअल रीडिंग यू मे बी लाइक नॉट सो मच critical, not so much serious. You're just reading it for fun. You're just reading it for enjoyment. You don't want to understand anything. You don't want to find some interpretation. You don't want to find some objections or you don't want to raise certain questions. So that is like your uh, simple reading. But when we talk about critical reading, right? So in critical reading, we have like as we want to find some interpretation, we maybe find some loopholes, we maybe find something over there. So that's why there are certain things. For example, we include SQ3R, survey, question, read, recall, and review. Survey, as you know, it was simply skimming and scanning. ये भी हम डिटेल में भी आगे देखेंगे कि what is skimming and what is scanning and what we skim and scan. So question, as I told you guys, that question is basically a point of view, right? There can be like many questions from a single text, from a single page. आप कई question raise कर सकते हैं. As much as you raise question, it is like your ability, right? It calls for your ability to understand text because obviously it is very difficult for some time to make a question from a text because when you have made a question from a text, it means that you are now going to understand that text. You are raising different questions and those questions stand for different point of views. So and then obviously read, recall and review जो आपके 3 R's हैं जो आपकी reading strategy होती है. So reading something, obviously first reading, knowing for certain thing, getting the main idea, then recall. Right? So in recall, we go and in recall we go and there is like this kind of thing. All participants must mute their mics, right? So yes. And then there is review. Obviously review is something that when you review something that you have read and you just recall it in your mind and started to write about. So today in basic reading strategies, right, I'm now opening that presentation for you. I hope that कि आप उसको इधर से देख सकते हैं. That PDF, sorry, presentation is something else. उसको हम later discuss करेंगे. That PDF जो मैंने आपको book दी है, so I'm going to open it so that if you could see, it is like open in my text. Can you see it? आप सबको नजर आ रहा है ये?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have now, if you see, basic reading strategies is our topic today, and we have to see it. So you can see that, for example, there is first basic reading strategy, and that is skimming. So skimming क्या होती है, right? As आप इसका जो उर्दू में मतलब है, right, कि किसी चीज को skim करना या दूध से जैसे जो भलाई उतारने का एक process है. So that's for example. So it means like to get the main idea, right? So that's why you see that this involves looking at a text quickly in order to do one or more of the following. वो क्या हो सकते हैं? Identify what the text is about. In ये आपके वो जो ये जो points हैं, these are like the objectives of skimming. That when you are skimming a text, you should be looking for these things. And what are those things? Number one, identify what the text is about. The topic, obviously, identify the main idea of the text. Decide how useful the text is for your purposes. Decide how you will make use of the text. So this is something obviously which you can understand as. Then skimming a text might involve looking at some or all of the following features of the text. So this is the most important thing when we are skimming something. Obviously, for example, when you're going for your project या आप कोई project और उसमें लिटरेचर रिव्यू जैसे एक बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट सेगमेंट होता है व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू राइट सम रिसर्च पेपर और व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू do some kind of project. So there you have to read, for example, many articles. Now, roughly an article consists of 60 to 30 pages, for instance. So obviously, if you're going to read that article of 16, 30 pages, it will take time. So in this particular kind of thing, when you're surveying things, when you are just getting to know whether this article is related to you as well or not, so then you involve the skimming. You can see the title. Okay, from the title you can make some idea that it would be about this. Section headings. Then there are, for example, headings in that paper. So you could see that, well, these headings are relevant to you or not. Then abstract and summary provided by the writer. This is obviously very much important. Abstract is like a summary which is provided by the author or the writer in the beginning of that article. So you could read the abstract and you can make an idea that, well, this topic is about for this thing. First and last paragraph, obviously first paragraph used to be an introduction. So in that way the writer is going to introduce you the topic, so you can see that particular first paragraph, and then last paragraph writer obviously going to conclude things. तो इस तरह से मतलब ये कुछ tips आप समझ सकते हैं, tricks आप समझ सकते हैं. These are tips and tricks skimming के जो आप कर सकते हैं, या first and last sentences of intervening paragraphs. For example, there are continuing paragraphs हैं, तो उनके भी आप first और last sentence पढ़ सकते हैं, and then topic sentences in each paragraph. Another form of skimming is when you are previewing a book in order to decide how useful it is for your purposes. In this situation, you might also look at one or more of the following. So when you are skimming that particular thing which I told just, it is about, for example, when you are going to, let's say, skim an article up 15 to 20, 30 pages material. But if you're going to review a book, right, and you want to decide that, obviously, supposedly you are in a library and there you have found a book, and obviously you cannot get issued all the books. So you are there and you are just looking at the book and you want to see, you want to know either this book is relevant to you or not. So there, for example, you can utilize the skimming. How you can see, for example, you can see information about the author, publication details, contents page, yeah, forward and introduction. This is obviously contents page is obviously very much important because it tells you the contents of the book, and you can make an idea, okay, well, this book is relevant to me or good to me or not. And then obviously forward or introduction, so obviously these are something which you can easily read, right, in 5 or 10 minutes. So forward or introduction, they give you the idea of the book. In this way you can decide whether this book is useful for you or not. And then index, this is mostly given in the end of the book, right? It tells us what different entries, different things. तो ये भी आप देख सकते हैं. So this was skimming. It is the first reading strategy, right? And by involving skimming, so it's like your first kind of thing. It's not obviously, it's not like that of a critical reading. We cannot say that skimming is a critical reading. Skimming is the first step. When you get to know that कि आप जो भी पढ़ना चाहते हो, या whatever the material you have before you, is it relevant to you? Is it something good to you, right? So this is something which you want to do. So predicting is another reading strategy, and let me call it a guesswork kind of thing, right? So sometime, for example, it happens mostly when we are, like, let's say when we are reading a story, and then we say, okay, well, this would be the end, right? We predict the end of the story, or we'll say that what will happen, right? How we do so because of our previous knowledge, because of our experience, because of our knowledge, because of our understanding, because of the way we are knowing things, or reading things, or watching things. So in this way it also happens. So predicting means, let's see the definition of predicting. So predicting means using what you already know about the topic, what you want to learn about the topic from the text, and what you have learned from your previewing in order to guess what kind of information the text will contain and how useful it will be. Brainstorming your prior knowledge will help you to understand the text. So obviously you in a particular field, जो भी आपकी field है और उसमें आप आगे जा रहे हैं और आप कुछ पढ़ते हो, so you are getting some knowledge. Now that knowledge in that particular field is your previous knowledge, and when you read something new which you haven't already read, right, so there you can have some this prediction kind of thing, right? So this is also one of the strategy to make some meaning out of the text. And then there is the third, scanning. I would like कि आप में से कोई इसको पढ़े, कौन पढ़ेगा scanning को, if you are listening me? I want a
Hello,
reader.
sir.
Okay, who is Junaid?
Zishan.
Zishan. Okay, Zishan. इसको आप
Yes, sir.
पढ़ें, scanning को पढ़ें.
Scanning. Scanning involves finding words
हम्म.
which have particular importance for you.
ये
When
parenthesis
you
वाला
are
भी पढ़ें, or other symbols such as
finding
figures.
words or other symbols such as figures which have particular importance for you.
हम्म.
When you are scanning, you already know the form of words or symbol you are looking for.
Okay.
When you scan, you normally focus on small parts of the text only.
Small parts of it. So scanning is you can scan, for example, अब इसको थोड़ा सा हम अगर extend करें, so you can scan. Particularly we use scanning when, for example, आप जब dictionary वगैरह use करते हैं, तो there, for example, you are scanning because you are finding words, and there is like a particular way to find a word that you're going to start with that letter, and then the second alphabet and the third alphabet, and in this way you will find the word very easily. So scanning, obviously, this also involves this activity as well, right? Where you are finding words or something of importance, some heading, sometime there is certain italicized or bold kind of thing in a text. तो उनको जब आप find करते हैं, that is called as scanning. Skimming and scanning. Scanning is for some particular information which you know it would be there, right? It's for example, there is a word and you want to find its meaning, so you know that that meaning, that word would be in dictionary. So scanning, it implies something which is already there and you're going to find. In skimming, it is your way of knowing a text. आप इसकी जरा इसको differentiate कर सको. In skimming, it's your way of knowing a text. In scanning, right, the text is there and you want to find some particular information, right? So you scan the text and reach at that particular point, whether the information is there, all right. If it's not there, then obviously there's something else. Yes, when you scan, when you scan, you normally focus on small parts of the text only. Okay, so search reading, right? This is the next point. Uh, Search reading means quickly finding ideas. This is your next strategy. Reading strategies हम पढ़ रहे हैं आज. Means quickly finding ideas which are particularly important for you. This is different from scanning because you do not know the exact words you're looking for in advance and cannot make a direct match. So you could see that this is like a difference between scanning and search reading. So search reading means quickly finding ideas which are particularly important for you. And obviously you don't know that, okay, where are those ideas? You don't know the place, you have to search it. All right, so identifying the main idea, this is the next point, right? So this involves understanding the writer's main point, right? So again, this is the main ideas. Obviously, we already discussed them in skimming as well. So this involves understanding the writer's main points. It may be possible to do this quickly after skimming the text. When you have skimmed the text, obviously at that point, when you can say that, okay, I have read this article and the main points जो आपने understand की हैं वो ये हैं. This could be like this strategy. However, with more difficult text, it may only be possible to identify the main ideas after more detailed reading. So obviously detailed reading at some stage आपको करनी पड़ती है, लाजमी है, because obviously you may have some main idea from skimming and scanning, and if the texts are difficult and demanding, then it also happens that you cannot make sense, right? You cannot make sense by just simply uh, skimming a text or scanning a text. Then you have to do careful reading, right? So detailed reading or careful reading. So this is now our next thing. What is careful reading? This involves reading slowly and carefully so that you understand every word in the text. or the part of the text that you are most interested in. You might do this in order to understand the details of the text and also to infer meaning that has not been directly stated. And then there is obviously careful reading, as obviously visible from the name that it's a careful reading. So you have to be very careful, you have to see every single detail, you have to focus on words, their relationships, ideas, how they are being generated, what kind of ideas they are producing, because obviously one idea generates another idea. And then the inferring means obtaining meaning from the text that the writer has not explicitly stated. Now, this is something obviously very important. The text is there, any text, any book, any paper, any material, any written thing, and you're reading something. So there are certain things which are very much explicit. Explicit mean clear, to the point, बहुत वाज़े तौर पर text में explain की हुई चीजें हैं. And then there are certain meanings, because obviously the text produces multiple meaning. Even आप ये भी एक बात समझेंगे कि let's say एक writer ने कुछ लिखा है, so it's not necessary कि जो meaning आप generate कर रहे हैं these are those same meaning जो कि writer ने शायद intend किए हों. तो ये रीडर की भी अपनी एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग होती है और उसका अपना एक नॉलेज होता है, और रीडर भी मीनिंग क्रिएट कर रहा होता है, राइट. सो दैट इज बेसिकली कॉल्ड एज इन्फरेंस और इन्फरिंग समथिंग, which the writer has not explicitly stated over there, but from the structure or from the idea. So one, as I just told, one idea leads to another, one thought generates another thought. So there are certain thoughts which are explicit and the other thoughts are implicit. So text have both kind of meaning. One is called as explicit meaning, it is obviously there, and the other opposite of explicit is implicit meaning. And those implicit meaning obviously they are like hidden meaning, and you are going to like find those meaning, and obviously when you have found them they are yours. Sometimes you may wish to infer why the author wrote the text, the writer's purpose, and also the writer's attitude towards he is writing about. So this is inference, right? And then we have this dealing with unfamiliar words. So when you find a, obviously it happens when you are particularly in our context, जब हम English as a foreign language या second language पढ़ रहे होते हैं, तो एक तो मतलब obviously आपके लिए ये भी एक problem होता है कि you have to understand English as well, and then there are obviously certain words आपको वो अनफेमिलियर हैं, आपको उनके मीनिंग नहीं पता, राइट. तो फिर आप क्या करेंगे, राइट. तो ये एक बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट स्ट्रेटजी है, राइट. तो ये आपने देखना होता है कि फॉर एग्जांपल अब आपको वर्ड नहीं आता तो आप अपनी वो बुक रख के डिक्शनरी उठा के उसको देखेंगे. तो ये थोड़ा सा इसको आप देखें, दिस इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. So when you find a word you do not understand in a text, you need to decide first whether it is really necessary to understand the word, right? So this is obviously what I was talking about, that how it is very much interesting. Perhaps you can understand enough of the text without understanding the word, in which case you can ignore it. Alternatively, the context in which the word is located may allow you to guess the meaning of the word well enough to continue reading. And there is like first, for example, you can see that really you want to know about this word. Is this word that much important? And then you can see that कि जो उस word के इर्द गिर्द जो word है, तो if you are getting a rough sense of the word, the meaning of the word, you're just guessing it. If neither of these applies, you may have to look up the word in a dictionary. An approach to dealing with new vocabulary is decide whether you need to know the word how now to help you understand the text and use it later under different circumstances. In this case, you will need some way of recording the word. That is a vocabulary notebook. You can keep the paper with you. You can keep a notebook with you in which आप जो new words आपको मिलते हैं आप उनको note down करते जाते हैं, so that उनको आप अपनी memory में properly उनको install कर सको. You will also have to decide whether to rely on working out the meaning of the word from the context or whether you need to check in a dictionary. So, all right, I think this is these are some strategies, and there are some more to go, right? Only need to know the word now to help you understand the text, and then do not need this word. So obviously these we include in this thing. आप इसको पढ़ लोगे. This is obviously about the dealing with unfamiliar words की बात है कि what is your strategy if you want to know the word or only need to know the word now to help you understand the text, so you skip it like that. So these are some basic reading strategies, right? And we started from this section, skimming, and then obviously we went to predicting and scanning and search reading and identifying the main ideas, careful reading, inferring, and then dealing with unfamiliar words. These are our basic reading strategies, and from here onwards, we'll move toward our next topic in our next session, in which we will talk about uh, the perpetual reading strategies or more extensive reading strategies. All right. So, if you want to ask any question, if you want to talk about something, so now you can unmute your mics and you can talk about it. I'm closing this screen share. So, we want to ask something, so you can ask. Yes. Is everything clear to you, to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's very good. So,